If you go onto Twitter and create a new profile right now, it shows you all the suggested follows are Democrats, no Republicans. So that means as soon as you sign up, you say, I don't know, well, yeah, I'll follow this person, I guess. You're being slammed by pro-Democrat messaging. And that was just Twitter. And that was just the who to follow. That's not even, now we've seen this big push towards a switch from reverse chronological feeds into algorithmic feeds. And perhaps people don't realize what the true power is behind that and why they want it. For one, they can make more money with it for sure, but it takes away your ability to subscribe to who you want. This was a big deal with Threads when Threads launched. This is Instagram's version of Twitter or whatever. Worst platform ever, in my opinion. Because I'm like, okay, I'm on Instagram. I'll sign up for Threads. There is no reverse chronological feed. It was only algorithmic. I was getting a bunch of Democrats in my feed, which was strange. I don't follow them. And I was getting weird entertainment stuff and weird jokes that meant nothing to me. But their default position was, we're going to tell you what to look at. And I wonder if what they were doing was intentionally trying to create a platform. So look, you have Twitter. Twitter defaults the algorithmic feed. Twitter very much is biased, even working with intelligence agencies with secret backdoors for removing content. Lawsuits now underway and already resolved proving this. Elon takes over. Instantly, Zuckerberg's like, we're going to launch an alternative. The innocent take on this is, well, they see a market opportunity. I disagree. I think they realized, one of our key assets in this manipulation has just fallen to someone who disagrees with us. So Threads rolls out heavy-handed algorithmic feed, and it got a wave of complaints. It was too overt. Now they're saying we're going to pull that back a little bit. But for the longest time, Instagram has not been reverse chronological. Reverse chronological, for those that don't understand, it is what it means. You see on your feed the latest thing that someone posted. And so if your friend posts now, you'll see it. But if your friend posted 3 hours ago, it's already long gone. The argument from these big tech platforms is, but what if you liked that 3-hour old post? We're going to make sure you see it. What ends up happening is on Instagram, and this annoys the crap out of me, I get weird posts when I'm scrolling through my feed of things I don't care about. They're testing you, right? Seeding the battlefield. How long do you linger on this post versus this post? Then they know what to send you more of. But what they're also doing is using that as the argument. They're going to start seeding you information to control what you think. And I got to be completely honest, this UFO that we got sitting right here, nobody can see it, but this UFO, I got it because of Instagram. They knew I wanted it.
Wow, look at that thing.
Yeah, just floating. It's cool, huh?
Yeah.
They send me the ad and I say, I want that. But what you don't see is that sometimes it's not an ad. It's a post from someone saying, did you know about bad thing from this person? Don't vote. Vote for them instead. That's the game being played.
Well, there's a little more to it. So let me explain. And these companies have another advantage over all the traditional dirty tricks, which are inherently competitive, and they don't bother me that much because they're inherently competitive. But the point is, these companies have another advantage, which is they know exactly who is undecided. In other words, who can still be influenced. Exactly. They know down to the to the shoe size of those people. They know exactly who they are. So they can concentrate, and in a manner that costs them nothing, they can concentrate just on those people. So talk about swing states, swing counties, swing districts. Okay, well, here we're talking about they know who the swing people are.
So the political world, they do it all the time, try to identify based on voting histories. But what's Google doing to identify?
Well,
is it looking at all their search? Are they looking at getting everything off their phone to figure it out? How are they doing it?
Well, you and I have been using, maybe not Tim because he looks a little bit younger than us, but you and I have been using the internet for 20 years.
I've been using it longer than you guys.
Okay, that's cool.
Late 80s when I was a little kid, we had CompuServe.
Oh,
yeah.
Well, then, I hate to tell you, but Google alone has more than 3 million pages of information about you. 3 million pages. They're monitoring everything you do, not just if you're stupid enough to use their surveillance email system, which is called Gmail, or their surveillance browser, which is called Chrome, or their surveillance operating system, which is called Android. These are surveillance systems. That's what they are. That's all they are.
The Chinese really couldn't do it better, could they?
But they not only are doing that, they're actually monitoring us over more than 200 different platforms, most of which no one ever heard of. So, for example, millions of websites around the world use Google Analytics to track traffic to their websites, and it's free. Of course, nothing's really free. You pay with your freedom. But the point is, Google Analytics is Google. And according to Google's terms of service and privacy policy, which I actually read over and over again whenever they make changes in it, if you are using any Google entity of any sort that they made, then they have a right to track you. So you are being tracked on all of those websites by Google. Every single thing you do on those websites is being tracked by Google.
So I don't need to ask you. I mean, you know about Facebook shadow profiles.
Of course.
This is an amazing phenomenon.
Yeah.
I explained to people. Are you familiar with shadow profiles?
No, but I'm sure I see them in my feed.
Let me just
No,
you don't
see
you
them.
don't. To everybody who's listening, you have a Facebook profile, and I love starting this because then
And then someone says, "No, I don't have a Facebook.
Yeah,
I've
no, I
never
don't."
signed up for Facebook." Okay,
and here's the really simple version.
I'll play that role.
Is it a clone,
But
a clone or a ghost of
No,
you?
no,
What
no,
is
no.
it?
I'll give you.
No.
I'll give the simple version and throw it to Dr. Epstein, who knows better than I. But when you sign up you're on Facebook, right?
Yep.
When you sign up, you get a little prompt. Hey, would you like to add your friends and family through your phone book? Simple way they can do this. Your mom does not have a Facebook profile. She's never signed up, but she does have a shadow profile. When you sign up and say, import my friends, it then finds in your phone book, mom, 5551234. Guess what? Your brother also signs up, mom, 5551234. What happens then is all those little bits of data, Facebook then sees that and says, we know that mom has these sons. We know from public data on the phone number, mom's name is Jane Doe. Now they've compiled whom they have a profile on your mom, her friends, her family, where she works, her salary, all that information from all these ancillary sources. And you probably know better than I do, so I don't know if you want to elaborate.
Well, because from that point on, once that has been set up, information continues to flow in and build that profile. So that profile becomes, over time, immense, just as all these profiles are immense. The shadow profiles are immense as well. So it means that they know who's going to vote, who's not going to vote, who's made up their minds. They don't bother with those people. Who has not made up their minds. They know exactly who those people are. That gives them an advantage which no campaign manager has ever had in history, because they know exactly who those people are. Now let me explain.
So who's using it? Is Google using that to influence who they want to influence, or are they selling it to candidates to do that?
No, they're doing it themselves because they have a very, very strong political culture. And so they have their own agenda, which they are trying very hard to spread around the world. And they're impacting right now more than 5 billion people every single day. So they're doing a pretty darn good job. One of the leaks from Google a couple of years ago was an 8-minute video called The Selfish Ledger. If you type in, please don't use Google to do this. Use the Brave search engine, okay, or anything but Google. Don't use Google. Type in my name, so Dr. Robert Epstein, and then type in Selfish Ledger, and you will get to a transcript I made of this 8-minute film that leaked from the Advanced Products Division of Google. And this video is extraordinary because this video, which was never meant to be seen outside the company, is about the ability that Google has to re-engineer humanity. They call it behavioral sequencing. And they do have that ability, and they're exercising that ability. So they know more about us than we know about ourselves. They even have, for many of us, our DNA data. That's why Google has, for many years now, been investing in DNA repositories. That's why Google helped to set up 23andMe. That was set up by one of the spouses of one of the founders. So the DNA information becomes part of our profiles, in which case they know about the diseases we're likely to get, and they can start to monetize that information long before you even get sick. They also know which dads have been cuckolded, by the way. So, they know so. Oh, now, Fitbit. They own Fitbit, so they're getting physiological data 24 hours a day. They benefited tremendously from COVID, so much so that it kind of makes me wonder whether they had something to do with COVID. But they benefited from COVID because of COVID and their cooperation with the government in trying to track the spread of COVID. They got access to hospital data for tens of millions of Americans. So they got access to medical records, which they've been after for a long time. COVID gave them that access. They bought the Nest smart thermostat company a few years ago. The first thing they did without telling anyone was put microphones inside of some Nest products. So now they have microphones in people's homes, millions of homes, and they start to get patents. I have copies of them. Patents on new methods for analyzing data inside a home so that you can make reasonable inferences about whether the kids are brushing their teeth enough, what the sex life is like, whether there are arguments taking place. All of that, of course, can be monetized, but also it becomes part of our profiles. And that information is used to make predictions about what it is we want, what we're going to do, whether we're going to vote, whether we're undecided, and it gives them more and more power to manipulate. So I'm going to give you a glimpse of one of our newest research projects, data that we just got. So this will be just an exclusive for your show.
Oh.
Okay. And this is called DPE, Digital Personalization Effect. We've been studying the impact that bias content has on people. We've been doing that since whatever it is, 2013. But now in the new experiments, we've added personalization. So we're comparing what happens if we send people biased results or biased content of any sort, and we already know the shifts we're going to get that way. And now we're personalizing it. So based on the way someone answers questions in the beginning, we either are or are not sending them content from news sources and talk show hosts and celebrities that they trust. And if they're getting the same content, but it's from trusted entities, trusted sources, that can triple the size of the shift we get in voting preferences. It can triple it. Now, this is one of our new research areas. It's going to take a long time for us to, work out all the details. But think about that. These companies are not only sending biased content to satisfy their agenda for humanity, they're sending personalized content to everybody. Do you know this big trial that's in progress right now? A couple days ago, a Google executive said under oath, we don't make use of the massive amount of information we have about everyone. We don't use it. Well, how are they sending out personalized content to everyone if they're not using it?
So I'm wondering if this algorithmic control, these ephemeral experiences, I don't know, can they overcome reality, right? Joe Biden does a bad thing. They can try and make that story go away. But Joe Biden does bad thing, bad thing, bad thing, bad thing, bad thing. Eventually, the news gets out and they can't stop what is actually happening, right?
There are certainly limits on what they can do, but you'd be surprised at how few limits there are because there are no constraints on them. There are constraints on newspapers and magazines, and we're used to looking at sources where there are constraints. I mean, think of the things that you don't see in newspapers, right? There's no pornography in newspapers. You don't even think about it.
Yep.
In fact, there's so much weird stuff that's just not in traditional media sources that we just don't give it a second thought.
I think that if a child gets access to adult content on YouTube, then YouTube's executives should be criminally charged immediately. If you and several of their employees, I mean, indictments, 2,000, 3,000 people instantly. If you had a child walk into an adult bookstore and they let him in and started letting this kid look at this stuff, yeah, there's going to be criminal charges, going to be civil suits. It is a violation of state law outright to allow children to get access to this material. But all the platforms allow it.
That's what I'm trying to tell you, is that there are no constraints on them. In fact, what we have is the opposite. We have Section 230 of the Communications and Decency Act of 1996, which prevents us, for the most part, from suing them for any content at all that they post on their platforms. Now, that was meant as a way to help the internet to grow faster, which made some sense at the time.
Time to retire that.
It doesn't.
230 needs to go away.
Except it's not going to go away.
I don't know about it should go away.
Well, it seems to be
But
significantly revised.
there needs to be a deep assessment as to what it's supposed to be doing, because it's not doing what it should be doing, and it's allowing protections in bad ways.
Well, the point is that the arrogance they have stems in part from the fact that there really are no constraints. So, we have these two kinds of sources of information in our world today. One is the traditional sources where there are lots of constraints, period. And then there's the internet where there are no constraints. And that's wrong. And especially lately, I'm getting more and more concerned about the way it's affecting kids, because there's a lot of mysterious things happening with kids that parents just cannot figure out. We're now on the verge of being able to figure it out, because it has to do with this weird content that these companies are sending to kids. And I think that this is not random. I think that they're sending out this particular kind of content for particular reasons. For example, why would you have, in fact, I was sure you were going to ask me and you didn't ask me, why would you suddenly in the middle of an innocuous cartoon insert something that's just ghastly and horrible? Why would you do that?
Why?
Because of it's called negativity bias, which a great term is used in several of the social sciences. It's also called the cockroach in the salad phenomenon. So you have a big, beautiful salad in a restaurant, and then all of a sudden you notice there's a cockroach in the middle. What happens? It ruins the whole salad. It's just amazing. You send back the whole salad. Now you could eat around the cockroach, but no, the salad is destroyed. So in other words, we are built so that if there's something negative and horrible and possibly threatening, all of our attention is drawn to it. It affects our memory. It really has a tremendous impact on us. We're built that way, and evolution made us that way because that makes sense, right? If there's something out there that's a little scary,
It can be contaminated.
that's exactly
The
right.
roach was running all around the lettuce. You have no idea.
Now, if you had a plate of sewage and then you put a nice piece of See's candy from California in the middle of it, it doesn't help the sewage at all. So there is there's no corresponding effect for positive things, but for negative things, I think that's one of the reasons why we're seeing what we're seeing, is because they're trying to addict kids more and more to stay on the platform. First of all, that's called watch time. They want them staying on the platform, and they want them coming back over and over again more and more frequently. I think that's one of the reasons why they're putting in these ghastly moments. But
how does that wouldn't it make them not want to come back?
Oh, no, not at all. When you're driving on the highway and there's an accident,
You slow down.
You can't take your eyes off of the accident, and you're trying to keep your car in a straight line, and you can't even keep it because so much attention is drawn to that. So,
well, I think it has to do with, we want to know what happened, and the reason we do is because evolutionary psychology, it would benefit us if we see some kind of dangerous circumstance to understand as much of it as we can. We're more likely to survive if we are doing that.
Well, little kids have those same built-in tendencies. They want to know what's happening. They want to know what this is. They want to understand this. They want to understand why they're feeling like it's so crazy right now.
Yeah, and they're forming their belief systems too. I think it's not just the weird things that pop up. There's blatant, rampant indoctrination.
Absolutely.